Welcome to the Overcomers Overcoming podcast series, where we profile those who are overcoming and those who have overcome various life topics. I am Ron Cooper, along with my wife and business partner, Marty, of the Cooper Culture, who is sponsoring this series. Many people who have overcome life events have inspired me to produce this series. We want you to know you are not alone in whatever you're experiencing. Life has taught me that everyone has a story that someone needs to hear. Join us as we profile those who choose to be a lifestyle chainbreaker. Let's engage their story to inspire us and others within our circle of influence. Welcome aboard, folks, to our podcast entitled Overcomers Overcoming. Our special guest today is Zack. Zack, we've got listeners that are very interested in learning your story. So welcome aboard with us.
Thanks for having me.
Zack, can you take just a little bit of time to tell us about your background and just your life, just a little bit about it? Our focus, of course, is not on what used to be, but what is kind of thing, but just a little bit of a look into your background.
Okay, just a quick short background. I was born in Baltimore City. I lived there till about my early teens and then moved out to Baltimore County. I come from a single mother family. My father was in prison my entire life. I had a good education as a kid. I went to Catholic school until high school. And as far as childhood goes, it was pretty good. I can't really complain.
Now, Zack, am I understanding correctly? There was a time in your life when you started in drugs and then got addicted to it?
So yes, I would say that, I started with the marijuana, the drinking, things like that, like at an early age between 12 and 13. I want to say that it might have been a fitting in kind of thing. I hung out with an older crowd. I liked the fact that they were actually a pretty older crowd, and I think I lacked something from not having a father around as a child, and was shooting for something maybe on those kind of lines, along with also just trying to be cool and fit in and do what everybody else was doing.
Zack, what I think I heard you just say is, in part, you didn't know exactly how you fit in with the crowd. If you did you feel somewhat of an outcast, oddball, whatever the term may be?
I definitely felt different or like an oddcast from the other kids that I was growing up with. For example, the whole broken family thing. Everybody else had that, and I did not. Other kids' parents used to come out and play ball with us and things like that, and I didn't have those kind of things and was looking for that.
Okay. So Zack, in trying to fit in, can you just take us back to that time when it sounds as if someone may have convinced you, Zack, if you really want to fit in, if you want to, feel like you are somebody, maybe some drugs would do it. Is that the way it happened, or can you tell us how you got started?
So I don't know if it was so much as somebody literally standing there pressuring me saying, hey, you want to be one of the cool guys like us, this is how you do it. I think it was more like I was being accepted into this crowd, and the more and more I hung out with this crowd, the more and more I found out that they did. For example, I remember one of the first times I smoked weed was getting off the bus in middle school and hanging out with these these friends, and going over to somebody's house after school, and somebody at the time made a homemade little fake pipe, and everybody started smoking. So that was around my first time smoking. Everybody I was with was doing it, and I did not feel comfortable enough to be the one person who did not.
Zack, if somebody at the time had told you, Zack, you're in the wrong crowd, can you think back, how would you have felt about that?
Well, actually, I was told that. Like I said, my father had been in prison my whole life, and the result of that was from drugs. So I had been told that over and over. I had it by example in front of me, and I just did not listen. It just didn't seem like it was going to be real to me. Like that might have been his issue, but it didn't seem like it was going to be my issue.
Let me ask you about your circle of friends. Did you feel at all that if I don't have these friends, I may not be able to make any friends at all? Did you think about, was that a factor at all to you?
You know, I can't really recall that exact thing, but I know that like I don't know. I had a feeling that there were certain people that I did want to be around. I didn't want to fall into the category that those people made fun of, for example, or things on those lines, like bullying and things like that. Like I didn't want to fall into the category of the kids who actually got bullied by the crowd I was trying to hang out with.
All right. So, in the effort to be accepted, I'm going to use that term, you felt that maybe doing some drugs at the time. Did you think that, just experiment with it a little bit, I'll never get hooked on it? Was that going through your mind at any point?
So at the time, it was really, I can remember some of the thought process. It was like, oh, this is just weed and alcohol. Like, everybody does this. I didn't know at the time anybody who had a real serious problem with that, especially alcohol. I mean, I knew there were alcoholics, of course, but I didn't personally know anybody that couldn't not drink. So no, at the time, it wasn't a big. That wasn't something that was going through my head at that time. No.
All right. Now, at some point, 13, 14 or so, you became addicted. Is that about your age?
So yeah, like a little bit after 12, it was about 13, 14, 15-ish. I started experimenting with prescription pills. Actually, yeah, just prescription pills. That lasted for a few years. I had done other drugs, but they weren't really my type of thing or my drug. So it was like 1-2 times. But around 15, 16 is when I was at least doing prescription drugs every weekend, and probably a couple times during the week during school hours.
Now, were you stealing these drugs? I mean, were they in the house and they were prescribed to your mother, for example, or how did you get the drugs? I'm assuming you didn't have enough income to pay for them.
So actually, at that time, around 16, I had started selling weed, and I kind of traded on and off for prescription pills from a friend. I'm not gonna say that they were never stolen. I just know that I never I know I never had the opportunity to steal any from my household. If I did, I would have, for the record. But I personally didn't get to steal any, no, but I would have.
So is it fair to say, Zach, your addiction was somewhat insidious? In other words, a little bit at 13, a little more at 14, a little bit even more at 15, 16, and then...
So yes, it definitely just, in the beginning at first, it slowly progressed, over years. As time went on, the progression would go faster and harder. But yes, I would agree.
So Zach, what got you to the point, well, what was your breaking point? I guess that's a term I'll use, but maybe you felt at your lowest point or something, it seems. Help me determine what it was that you brought yourself to say, I can't do this anymore, I need help, or someone made sense to you saying, Zach, you got to have help.
So when I was 22 years old, I was a pedestrian and I was ran over by a drunk driver, and that's when my addiction really got out of hand, because then prescription pills weren't even an issue anymore. I was just given many different prescriptions. So I remember a year or 2 years after that incident, after I'm already very bad on drugs. That yes, people definitely tried to intervene, step in, help out. But I would say that like I was just definitely not ready to stop using. And I guess I guess this went on for a few more years of people stepping in trying to help. But I can't recall one thing that anybody tried to get me clean that was the reason I did.
So what I'm hearing, Zach, the arithmetic, you were 22 years old when you got struck. You're 9 years into drugs. It continued on for at least what sound like another 2 to 3 years. And would you say in hindsight, you are the one who brought yourself to the point that I need help that to get over this addiction? Or what was, I use the term breaking point. That may not be the term you would use, but what got you to the point where I need help?
So it was definitely myself. Like I was saying, it went on for a few more years. At the end there, it was specifically at the end, it was I was in a hotel room. I had blown all the money I had left. I had a pocket full of drugs. I remember waking up that morning about 5 in the morning and going into the bathroom and looking in the mirror, and pretty much I knew the end result of this process was going to be death. I also knew that living the life that I was living, I was never going to acquire the things that I wanted to acquire, materialistic and relationship-wise, with family, loved ones. It was just at a point where it was just not manageable anymore. I mean, it hadn't been manageable for years, but it was finally at the point where I realized that it was not manageable.
Wow, I'm going to say, Zach, from my experience with people, that's pretty commendable that you on your own got to the point where you said, this is everything I'm doing is wrong. You need help. Now, at that point, where did you go? Who brought you out of? Who started Zach's new life?
So at that point, my drug dealer came by. I actually gave him drugs back to take me down Pasadena to my mom's house. He did. I went. I knew somebody that had worked in treatment. I called them up, and they basically got me on a 3-day waiting list. I started detoxing at my mother's house, and on the 4th day, my friend, who was at the time the director of a treatment center, came and picked me up himself and took me into a treatment facility.
Talk to us about treatment with any withdrawal symptoms. Can you walk us, those of us who have never experienced this, can you walk us through what you went through?
So my treatment experience was about 3.5-ish weeks long, and it was, the first 2 weeks were absolute hell. I didn't have much sleep at all for the first 2 weeks. I think it took about on the 14th or 15th day before I actually got more than 4 hours of sleep at one night. And of course it's very uncomfortable. I don't mean that as far as like sitting in a chair. I'm talking about uncomfortable emotionally and in your feelings. It was more emotional for me than it was physically, I must say.
So now, you've been clean or free for how long?
6 months now.
6 months. Talk to me about what temptations you have, what would keep you from going back to the way Zack was?
So temptations, I don't really have too many temptations today. I'm not saying that I'm not going to, but as of right now, where I'm at in my recovery is, it's not even attractive at the moment. So like I don't find any aspect of it attractive. I think I used to find the lifestyle a little attractive, but it's just none of that even looks appealing anymore.
Okay, now I'm very interested in what you just said. It seems to me that what you're saying is there was a time in your life, who knows, 25, 26 years old, when you just lost, two things occurred, it seems. One, you lost the taste for drugs, if taste is the right word, but you evaluated your life and life's run off the track, so to speak. I'm out in the bushes. I've got to do something better. Were those two kind of things operative in your life?
Yes, I would say it was definitely a point of that.
Okay, so now talk to me about being the recovery process. But I mean, right now you do not have the temptation. But is there anything that
So I
could take you back into drugs?
so I would think not working an active recovery program would. So I've got before this go round, I actually tried to get clean before, and it didn't work out. I just was going to a meeting here and there, maybe once or twice a week. The difference into this time is for example, I don't really have anybody in my life today that doesn't that uses drugs. For example, pretty much everybody I'm surrounded around is in recovery in some way, shape, or form. And I think staying active in your recovery is where you lose those temptations or those desires. You know what I mean? I've been working a lot recently, but I almost hit a meeting every day. You know what I mean? I have a service position at a home group in Narcotics Anonymous. Narcotics Anonymous has also offered friendships that I didn't have before. So I would say that pretty much if you ask me a year ago or any time throughout my active addiction, I would say I don't really like people and I don't really want any new friends or anything like that. But contrary to that, it has definitely worked out different, and I'm thankful for that today.
Okay, so there was a point in your life later on that you didn't even like people. It sounded like, but
Correct, the isolation.
okay. So you enjoyed isolation. I mean, you coped with isolation. You could go off and be a loner with no problem.
Yes.
Now, do you feel you've overcome that part to where relationships, being with other people, I'm talking now the right friends, the right people, do you feel, if not a need for that, do you feel the benefit of that?
So I feel the benefit of it, and I do think that there's a need for it. It's still uncomfortable, you know what I mean, at times, but that's just something that I'm learning to now work with being clean and having emotions and feelings.
Zack, it takes a lot of courage to acknowledge the way things are with you, and I applaud you for that. Now, I want to, in the remaining couple of minutes we have, I want to, if you can, try to project back to when you were 13 years old. Help those of us who were parents, and those are friends and so forth. If we had a Zack in our midst, what are some things we would look for to help Zack not, or our friend who is act like Zack, how can I help that person to not get indulged at all? Was the big factor for you? You just didn't feel fit. You didn't feel that you fit in. So would it be a matter of someone just saying, Zack, I really do care about you? Can you help us through that?
So I think, yes, that would be helpful as parents. So I'm not saying that my mother didn't show plenty of love. I'm just saying that because she was by herself, she wasn't, I guess, around as much as was needed. I would say try to be around and love your kids as much as you possibly can. It can't hurt. I'm not saying that they're not going to still use drugs, but it definitely would be a help. It definitely would be helpful.
And Zack, I want to be careful to say that to our listeners that nobody here is intending in any way at all to demean your mother, to say that she was inadequate. Moms are what they can be at the time they can be. They have jobs and so forth. But I think what you're telling us, Zack, that you had need for other type of relationships, and it wasn't there at the time. And so help me out here, Zack, if I'm wrong in interpreting you, that if we cared enough about Zack to learn who Zack is, accept Zack, and I'm talking about when you're 13 or so, it's very possible that we could have helped you avoid the very first taste or indulge in drugs. I'm asking you a question that it's it's very, very difficult to answer because I'm asking you to retroactively look back when you were 13 years old. But in hindsight, do you think is there any truth to what I just said?
I mean, so me personally, I believe that it might have just delayed the first usage. I believe that sooner or later it would have probably happened.
Okay. And I have heard some people say that, yep, caring more about me could have delayed it, but it's almost as if I have to go through this experience to learn, to correct. Is that how you would characterize it in hindsight, Zach?
Kinda, yes. Yes. It's just a process that I guess that I had to go through to get myself together.
Zach, it's taken a lot of courage. I really appreciate, on behalf of the listeners, you explaining your situation. And I do think there are a lot of people who will benefit from your story. And I want to thank you for having the courage to walk through this with us. And you're going to benefit a lot of people.
Thank you very much.
I hope you know that in your heart, that by telling your story and being willing to do that, you're going to help a lot of people.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Contact us at ron@thecooperculture.com or marty@thecooperculture.com if you would like to get more information, or if you would like to discuss a strategic approach to how to help someone who needs encouragement to overcome their current life challenge. We're here to work with you, to help you and those within your circle of influence to overcome life obstacles. Marty and I have produced digital courses on relationships, interviewing skills, and overcoming financial challenges in dating and marriages that you can find by clicking on the store in the introductory page of this podcast series. We hope you will find these resources useful in your life journey. We look forward to establishing a dialogue with you, as our heart's desire is to establish a meaningful relationship with others. Let's all lead from and with the heart to show others we genuinely care.